The great thing about your show is that you instantly attract a more cerebral, sophisticated audience. It's not what you would call an easy pitch of a show for the general public. So I'd love to hear your perspective on the fact that not only have people responded to it, but now you're coming back. You've defied all the odds, and you've got a show that actually is contributing to the palette of celluloid. So I'd love to hear your take on when you found out about season 2 and how the fan response has been for you.
I was so hoping we'd get a second run at it, just because I'm so in love with this character and the story and the world and all the people that we work with. We're so incredibly lucky that we have such a family in our cast and crew. I feel the response has been positive, and it's just, it's a really special feeling to be doing something that you love and you're passionate about, and that other people respond to. Is really lucky. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting when you're out there on the panel and the response you're going to get.
Yeah, well, because last year they hadn't seen it, so it's a very different.
The pilot only. I think most of the people were waiting for maybe the next panel, saving seats for that. Yeah. So this time it will be different.
Well, I mean, you had the Philip K. Dick cred, which helps, but this isn't your tip. It's not Blade Runner. It's not Total Recall. It's much different. So the people that knew the project beforehand were, such a small percentage of the people. But now I think it's been a great gateway to his material.
Well, it was for me.
Yeah. What about you? How have you taken it?
Well, I mean, I also was very much hoping we get picked up for a second season. I can't say in the same way, without it sounding weird, that I'm in love with my character. But I find my character fascinating. I don't hide from it in the same way, but it was very interesting because I was filming something else in London, in England actually, when it came out, and the people who would come up to me were such a diverse range of people that actually a lot of very young, hip people were very much into it, but a lot of older people, like my mother and stepfather, I find that the young generation has been very interested because there's something quite hip and unusual about it, and Philip K. Dick. But also the older generation, the different types, demographics of people who would come up, who would accost me, and in a strange ways, because when you're playing the Nazi of the piece, people can approach you in a strange way,
Well, you have some of those characters in your resume too, where I'm surprised people aren't afraid to approach you sometimes.
Well, I'm an essentially evil person.
Well, that's good to know.
That's what I try to use in my work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm generally quite approachable. People are generally surprised when I turn out to be relatively chatty. They end up wanting me to shut up,
And what's your perspective on it?
It's been stunning and humbling, I think. The book, actually, a post first season was on the bestsellers list for, I think, 5 or 6 weeks. And so people have really, embraced the novel. A lot of people that never would have read the novel. So for me, that's really, really gratifying.
I think it helps that it's not one of those things that people are so rigid about, like preserving everything from it. So you have a little bit of license to have some fun with it.
By and large, the fans of the book have really, really loved the show. And that was scary for me because when you make changes, and there's some people that just aren't comfortable with changes, and I get it. They have an emotional connection to the book, but it's necessary. Obviously, it's a different medium, and it's.
Yeah, the broadcast. I was going to ask about that. Like, that's a different way for people to take in content. Have you noticed? I guess what it does is it allows people to become fans quicker because the binge watching idea, but also, with your history of doing such a wide variety of things, this is a new world, and it's still kind of finding its feet. Has it been a different experience, like in terms of the way that it just basically goes from 0 to 100 with the material being out there?
Well, what was very interesting actually was having the pilot out there and then gauging the response. And like normally, we all have a kind of strange relationship with critics, etc., etc. But watching the reactions come into the pilot, which we had a vested interest in, was fascinating. And the feeling of this building momentum of enthusiasm for it was really something. So I've never been in a position before where the pilot goes out and gets seen and judged.
And with other, and it seemed like an underdog in comparison to some of the other stuff that was out there.
It was very difficult to quantify because it's not a recognizable trope that they've seen before, and that's why it's interesting to do.